I would like to welcome you to our new online talk show, hosted by Irene K. The name of the online talk show is A Conversation with Irene K. Irene will speak on a number of topics like health, comedy, fashion, entertainment, history, science, all genres of music, religion and cooking. You can email us if you have questions for our guest. This is our first show, and our guest for today is Dr. Florence Carnicelli-Johns. She is a sexuality counselor. And our topic for today is sex over 60. And now let's welcome our host, Irene K.
Good afternoon. Welcome to my first podcast show, A Conversation with Irene K. Later, I will tell you why it is I decided to start a podcast, and I will introduce you to my guest today, Dr. Florence Carnicelli-Johns, a psychologist, pastoral counselor, and sexual counselor. But first, let me introduce you to our sponsor today, Jeff Warsinski, Cool Springs Wine and Spirit, and he will tell you more about the store and location. Welcome, Jeff.
Well, thank you for having me for your first podcast, and good luck.
Thank you.
Tell you a little bit about myself. I've been in the wine business for 26 years. I run the wine department at Cool Springs Wine and Spirits. We're at 1935 Mallory Lane. We're the largest store, the best prices, and the best staff I've ever been involved with.
I agree.
We treat all of our customers with the most respect you can possibly get. And
personally experienced that.
yeah, I told you that one day.
Yes.
You said everybody's so nice. And I said, well, they better be.
Yes, you did.
And you don't even have to tell them.
That's right. That's
that
right.
is their goal. And each department has a very knowledgeable, if not 2 or 3 people this is their life, and it's going to be their life.
That's right. And thanks again.
Well, thanks for having me.
I appreciate it very much.
And good luck.
Thank you. Now, I'm going to start by telling you, before I introduce Dr. John, why I decided to start a podcast in the first place. We know that we all need conversation. We all need love. We all need someone to communicate with daily, to appreciate us. And me, I have decided, God gave me a gift of meeting some very interesting people in my 77 years. And why not? Those are gifts. Those are my gifts. Whenever I meet someone that touched me in a positive way, that's a gift to me. And I'm going to share those gifts and opinions. So let me start by telling you how it is I received a card from my medical doctor directing me to see Dr. Johns. But first, let me tell you about what I experienced. Now, if my experience you find to be a little too graphic, I can only apologize. Because one thing I believe in, there are some things you might say we don't need all that. But in order for me to tell you my story and how it is I made acquaintance with this lovely lady, Dr. Johns, I have to then tell you that my doctor had recommended that I, after losing my husband and not really in any relationship, you have to excuse me, I got distracted there. But and having been in a relationship, not being in a relationship, you have to excuse me, I got distracted, so I apologize. So he recommended that I get a toy, get an adult toy. And the reason he felt that I should do that is that it would be more calming, more relaxing in my life. And me being the personality he understood me to be, he decided that that would be a good course of action. There's going to be a delay, so I'm going to go on a pause and get right back to you. There is something that came up that's beyond my control, but I will get right back with you. Are we okay? The experience that I had was that I went to an adult toy store that I was recommended to go. A friend had recommended this store after the doctor had recommended this, that I get one of these adult toys. Now, it's nothing unusual about getting the toys, and of course you get them for any number of reasons, for various relationships, in relationships with your family, because of cancer, any number of things. But I went and I got my toy, a very small toy, took it home, and I said the only way this is going to work will be if I think in terms of my husband, bring him down from the heavens, and then try this toy out. And I must tell you, this toy does work. I am laying there and I am like in heaven. But in a flash, the toy slips, right? And you've heard of the men having to go to the emergency room because they can't get their situation in control. Well, that same thing sort of happened with me. I was 24/7 horny. And I said, well, I absolutely cannot go around horny like this. So went to the doctor. The doctor recommended that I go see a urologist. I went to a urologist, and at the time, I did not know that women even see urologists. So I get there are 3 men in the waiting room, and I go up to the window, and I said to the receptionist, do you see women here? She said, of course we do. How can I help you? I said, well, I am horny 24/7, and I don't know what to do about it. She said, well, let me make an appointment. She made an appointment. I went to my appointment a couple weeks later. She referred me to Centennial Wish Clinic. I went there. I told them about the problem I was having. Now, they didn't see it as being so ridiculous. I mean, it could have been very embarrassing and difficult for some to even say what was going on. But for me, they had to know. So I saw the doctor, they examined me, and then they gave me the card to see Dr. John. And I carried that card around for 3 years. And when I decided to do the podcast, then I got in touch with Dr. John. But that was not the only problem that I had. So before I introduce Dr. John, let me tell you, the other problem was one of the doctors recommended Miralax. They said Miralax will help you to keep you calm. So I decided to go on the Miralax. Well, what they did not tell me is that Miralax will make your stomach growl. So trying to come off of this being in a constant state where I was just constantly in need, I decided to go on the Miralax. Then a friend of mine was coming in from out of town. We came in, it's someone I've known for many, many years and had not dated, so I decided we'll get a little cozy. Now this is going to be embarrassing for some. And my family, I'm sure, probably would put up a disclaimer. But what happened is that the Miralax, the minute I started with a bit of affection, the Miralax started going bloop, bloop. And it's like, I'm going to pretend, because now I'm in the moment, that I'm not hearing any of this, right? So I go on with the little passion, as light as it was, nothing too extreme. So I'm in my parlor room, so I said, okay, let me go to my bedroom. So I sit there on the bench at the foot of the bed, and I sit down on the bench, and it's going, the Miralax is going, bloop, bloop, bloop. And now I'm getting embarrassed. I said, but I can't stop with this. I can't stop. So anyway, it goes on. And I said, well, okay, let me just go to the side of the bed. So we get to the side of the bed. The minute I sat there, the Miralax went bloop, 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 bloop. And I tell you, then the man that I was with, a couple years younger than me, he said, Miss Irene, I don't think we can do it anymore. I said, I don't think so either. So I decided that this is the time to get in touch with Dr. John to tell her my story. They had recommended the doctor that I contact her 3 years prior. So without further ado, and not to embarrass her any more than I already have, I'm going to introduce you to Dr. Florine Carnicelli John, psychologist, pastoral counselor, and sexual counselor. Dr. John, I welcome you today, and I hope you can recover from all of this.
Oh, absolutely.
Thank you very
Nothing
much.
Shocks
Thank
me,
you very
Irene.
much.
Thank
Okay.
you. Thank you for having me. I'm very glad to be here and not quite sure where to start. I guess I was wondering if you could tell me what or who you think your anticipated audience will be so that I can speak hopefully to
Well,
that group.
the whole thing about my podcast is getting people to open up. Whatever it is that you need to talk about, do so.
Okay.
You're in this world for a brief time. You're only in this world for a brief time. There are people that will not even say to a doctor, now they're going to their doctor, but they're not comfortable about even expressing the things that they're going through. This is to say to you, whatever is going on in your life, you need to speak up, you speak out, you need to be heard. You need to say what it is that you fear saying. Now, if I'm as bold enough as I know myself to be today, and as graphic as I am today, it is to throw myself out there to say, our world is brief. There's a lot that go on. You have people committing suicide. You have people depressed. You have all different needs of every age. And I'm expressing to you, I found out that when that little toy slipped, it identified a problem that resulted in my needing to go for physical therapy. I didn't add that previously. So never dismiss anything that's going on in your life. Always share with someone. And another thing, when you share with someone, do not be the teacher, the fixer. Listen to what they're telling you. Do not feel that it's more than you need to hear. Give everyone a platform to express themselves. And it would be very embarrassing, and I know most of you would never say the things that I've said today, but I will tell you it is without any regrets, because it was my experience, it's what I went through, it happened that way, and I am so glad. I have no regrets about having put this out here today. And now I will tell you, Dr. Johns, this is to address anyone that had with sexual issues, sexual problems, which you cover all those areas, and I will turn it back over to you.
Thank you, Irene. And I think you gave me my launching point. Communication.
That's right.
I think it's critical that, particularly when a person has an issue, emotionally, physically, spiritually, whatever, that they find the right person to share that with. When you go to a physician, if you have an issue, the physician should, or the nurse practitioner, they're very good at listening, are trained more today than they were 10, 20 years ago to address issues other than the strictly physical. For example, how many times have you been to your physician, your primary care physician, for example, for a routine physical, and were asked, how is your sex life? Are you able to function sexually? And that's a very broad comment. What is sex? Most people think when you talk about sex, you're talking about intercourse. That is only one aspect of the sexual interaction that we as human beings are capable of. So I think it is very, very important, particularly in my practice, I see more, well, let me back up. First of all, I have more years than I choose to tell you right now as a physical therapist. So I actually treated the physical issues that go with some of the problems that make a woman uncomfortable during penetration. So I did go back to school and got some more degrees and decided I could continue to work if I were counseling instead of doing the physical therapy, which is very strenuous, but while I was still okay, I thought I would move on. So I now see as clients people that I would have called patients in physical therapy. And most of them are women, or at least the women are sent to me, and then the husbands or the partners come in with them. So it becomes not just the woman's issue, but my specialty is women's health, pelvic floor dysfunction. Now I'm going to say a little bit about this because I think there will be people out there who will need to hear this. 15 years ago, this was not even a term. Now it is a specialty in nursing, in physical therapy, and most of the work in the Nashville area is being done by nurse practitioners and some gynecologists, and of course the physical therapists that are highly specialized in the treatment of this problem. And the problem is pelvic floor dysfunction. The part you are sitting on, there are muscles there that can become dysfunctional, just like you can have a tender spot or a trigger point in a muscle in the neck and shoulder area. We're also able to have those same things internally. And internally in the pelvic area that surround the vagina. So women come in complaining of painful intercourse. Now, some of them proceed to think this is their wifely duty, and they continue to operate to be good wives, and they're in agony. Now, this is something that the husbands or the partners need to hear, because you wouldn't want to put someone into absolute pain that you love. So this is just a launching point, because when I see a couple, I will explore with them their issues, of course, what they want, what they need. And then I always give a personality test, because it's important to understand the traits that people have that may be similar, may be different. Oftentimes I have clients that come in that aren't necessarily dealing with pain, but they're dealing with libido issues or discrepancies. One person has a higher desire for sexual interaction, and one has a very low desire. Now, this can be part of who the person is, so to speak, or it can be acquired. It can be, for instance, I will have couples that maybe have abstained from having intercourse until they were married, and they marry at 30, 32, and then the whole issue becomes very, very difficult and awkward. And then many times the woman experiences pain. Now the couple is lost and feeling very down. Some will wait a year or two before they seek help, like at the Wish Clinic and other places like that. Some will do something fairly soon. But the important thing is, when I see a couple, is to talk about intimacy, talk about the relationship. And when we talk about sex over 60, this is a very critical point, because we may not be able to operate, male or female, over 60 the way we did at 20 or 25 or 30. So it's important to adjust our expectations for ourselves and for our partner, and also to communicate that. Back to Irene's initial point.
Yes.
To talk about it. Now, we're so concerned that if I say such and such, I will hurt his feelings. For instance, I'm going to speak from the female side, or it could be the other way around. If we find a way to lovingly and kindly address the issue, not with blame, not with guilt, but saying, for instance, maybe something that a partner would have done in the earlier years was very satisfying to the partner. Perhaps that's changed now. So, for instance, a woman might be, her husband might be doing a certain activity in foreplay that she used to really enjoy, and now it becomes annoying to her. So what does she do? Does she not say anything and just put up with it and build resentment and not enjoy anything? And that's going to transmit to the partner.
That's right.
So it's important that male and female can say what they need in a kind and loving way.
That's right.
And to receive that request in a kind and loving way. Not to think, oh, I'm less of a man, or I'm not a real woman if, I can't do this or that. So, and of course, over 60, there are issues that can be dealt with with males with erectile dysfunction. But there are things that can be done. First of all, I'm going to back up a little bit. Whenever we have any physical problem, we need to seek medical help. We need to get a diagnosis. We need to know what is going on. If a man isn't having an erection the way he would like to have an erection, he needs to see his primary care physician, who should refer him to a urologist, and then go from there, because there can be a number of problems. It could be a prostate issue. It could be prediabetes. It could be a lot of things that could be affecting the blood flow to the penis, which is essentially what an erection is. It's not anything mysterious, simply a blood flow. So I think it's important to follow what I consider the bio-psycho-social spiritual model. So,
well, Dr. John, personally, I believe I never said no to my husband for sex. It's not that I wanted sex every time he wanted sex, but I believe in affection. I'm a touchy kind of person, and we were always touching each other. I would lay on his lap, and this is the thing: when you get older, you cannot start making excuses, and because your mate is not your sister, not your brother. Right. Your mate is not your daddy, not your mama. So when you are in a relationship, you have to keep that fondness of each other going. Now, I would tell you this. I'm not going to tell and I didn't tell my husband. You see, you talk about not cheating on your spouse, but that requires something of you. And what that requires is that you have to understand the biology of the body. You have to understand. I cannot put my husband's needs on a calendar that happens to be how I conform. I have to be in a relationship that addresses his needs. And we did that. When my husband was dying, I never left the bed. This is me talking now. Mm-hmm. I stayed with him. I didn't treat him like he was dying. I treat him like we're in another day and he's living. I said sweet things to him. I said kind things to him. I told him the things and the memories that would bring comedy to him. And I was always sincere. I didn't make deals like, I'm not going to give you any sex because you didn't take the garbage out. I'm not going to give you sex because you're on the phone with your lady friends all day. I'm telling you, it is nice to be nice. And in the real world, there are going to be issues to come up because we cannot chart our own course. But Dr. John, I know, and I'm not the best in the way I deliver. I have a style uniquely my own, and there's a lot to be said for that. But I do know, in a world that we're living in, we need people touching each other. We need kindness in this world. We need love in this world. And I know that when you embrace, when you say nice things to people, you cannot say, oh, they don't want to hear that. Let them hear that. Right. Let them hear. Now, when I went to the doctor to reveal what was going on with me, I think it's a cute story. I'll never apologize for the way it all played out. I mean, that is my story. That is what happened. Now, I did try to settle it down a little bit, but it's a story that brought laughter, and there's nothing wrong with laughter. And your truth, not your lies, but your truth carries so much energy, good energy to it. So always, never, when you go to the doctor, tell that doctor what's going on with you. Don't go in there, doctor, I really don't want, but I think I may need a history. And then you start questioning yourself. Tell them. I don't care if it's like me sitting here being silly, trying to get it all together for my podcast, because I do want it to be successful, and embarrassing you, Dr. John. Well, that's cool. That's cool. But say what's going on with you. Never isolate yourself. And when it's your mate, love that man, love that woman. Tell them whatever is going on with you. Come up and touch them. Come up and say, I love you. Fix them something special. Do something special. Because this is the world, and it's people say to me, I can't believe you're 77. I said, well, you probably can't believe you're 50. Because life is so fleeting. So cut with the jive stuff. Be real. Energize people. Be uplifting. So if I have to sit here with my podcast, and like you, Dr. John, I have other very, very interesting people that can educate. Now, my introduction to you may be a little off key, but that's fine. That is absolutely fine. But I appreciate you, and I have a question. And if it's too far off the mark, now there are some folks that absolutely do not like sex at all.
Right.
They hate sex.
Yes.
But they have a husband.
Yes.
They have a significant other.
Right.
So what are you showing up for?
Well,
I mean, am I to become what you are because you don't like it anymore? So therefore, I need to learn how to be like you, who care not to have it?
well, what I say to couples is, we all need to learn in relationship to lean in. So if this person wants it every day and 3 times a day, and this person is happy once a month, they need to move in. And it's not just the person who is saying, I just want it once a month, that needs to go over to the 3 times a day to satisfy the other person. It needs to be mutual. Relationship is at least 2 people. 2 people have to work on it, and it is very difficult. Mm-hmm. Very difficult, because some people are more wired to be sexual. Mm-hmm. There's a spectrum. And so, again, one thing that I suggest to people that say someone who doesn't want to be sexually interacting very often, that they schedule a time to be together. Now you can say, oh, that isn't spontaneous. Well, they're not being spontaneous. When you have a couple coming in, they haven't had intercourse in a year, then they need to schedule and have a time where they can spend time together alone, without interruption, without children, without grandchildren, without media, anything going on, and try to work it again, and to work on their intimacy. Intimacy. See, that's the whole thing. When people, all right, if a man, for example, and I'm not leaning in one gender, direction or another, but say a man is very much into porn, and he is on the computer and he's watching a lot of films and whatever, and he is self-satisfying. He knows exactly what to do to get where he wants. And here's the wife now, and she's wondering why he's not interested in having sex with a woman who's just had a baby or 2 and is keeping house and is, not one of these fake people that are on the screen. Well, I am not speaking from a moral standpoint, but I'm speaking from a relational and an intimacy standpoint. This destroys intimacy. Yes, it does. I'm not saying watching something erotic is destroying intimacy. Have both of the people. There's a difference between raw porn in
Yes.
eroticism.
Uh-huh.
You can find something quite beautiful and erotic and watch it together.
That's right.
And we get into things like fantasies. Some sex therapists advocate fantasies. Well, I'm all for fantasy, but I say put your partner in the movie.
Exactly. That's what I did when I had the little
I
toy,
heard you say
the
that.
adult toy, and because a couple of doctors had recommended that I get one. I never cared for 'em because I like to lay there and in my husband's arm and talk about nothing and just little cute stuff, so he can be more impressed with me than he was before. But I said, if I got to use this little thing, I'm going to have to really bring my husband back.
Yes.
Because I know the fun that we had. We had a delicious time. And so I had to bring him back to that experience. And honestly, it felt so great. And I just felt his presence. But then, like I told you, the thing slipped. And when it slipped, it stopped. And then you're talking about the dysfunction, because when that little device slipped, it hit something. Now, what it hit, it wasn't the hit thing that calmed it down. It was the thing that brought it up. And here I'm walking around. I don't want to be 24/7 horny. I mean, what's it? And it was really, it wasn't embarrassing, because long as I'm telling the truth, and long as I don't mind telling the truth, I'm going to survive whatever I'm going through.
Right.
But I understand the intimacy. I wasn't thinking about Cedric or Rick or you, William. I was thinking of my husband, because that man, I treated him well. How can I tell him, I ain't gonna give you anything, you ain't gonna do this, you ain't gonna do that to me? And yet we are as one. And I'm going to restrict, and he would not restrict with me. And and I said, Irene, you run your mouth, you can talk, and you have a lot to say, and you need to start sharing it. And so you're coming here today, and now I'm gonna say something. Is it too embarrassing if I bring up something about the breasts?
You cannot embarrass me.
No, it's
you
not.
have no
it's,
idea
it's,
what I have
okay,
sat
well,
hour after hour and heard.
And I did not know. I did not know, because I had a husband, you see.
Right.
So anything I needed to know, we were doing and knowing together. But I did not know you could actually stimulate the breasts with your spouse or whomever, and you can climax.
Well, some people.
How are you able to do that?
Well, quite frankly, I personally don't know. But I have to tell you that, there are different degrees of arousal that can be acquired with stimulation of the breast. But I know of cases where women with only breast stimulation, the nipples, would climax. Now, that is not a common thing. But
how are you? It's just the mind. The mind is getting you there with being able to do
all right,
that.
let's go back to the mind, because when you said, you were
Brought my
fantasizing
husband
using-
back,
Yes,
yeah.
about said,
Sure.
Cedric, I'm sorry. James.
Yeah,
My opinion, my theory on this is you probably had shut down for a long time after he died.
I did.
And you turn on the switch, the mind-body connection.
Yes.
And it was so strong that it just needed some time to balance out. Because the people who have turned their minds off about sex, and for different reasons, perhaps for religious reasons, and I'm not knocking this at all, but they've tried so hard to be good that they have shut down the mind-body connection. So if they were to actually, like a child, draw a picture of your body, they would probably leave this out. Or if they did a body scan and doing a relaxation technique, they would get to that area and it wouldn't be there. So we spend a lot of time doing imagery techniques to help people bring that physical part back, to connect the mind and the body again. And this idea of being kind to people that you were saying,
That's right.
there is now proven that we not only have a connection from the brain to the heart, which we have to have for it to operate, but we also have another connection from the heart to the brain. So you can do acts of gratitude or acts of kindness and even physically put your hands over your heart, and you will increase the serotonin level in your brain.
That's a good thing.
And the endorphins that you get from running and, exercising. So all of these things we do actually are helping us
Yes.
with our neurotransmitters.
I can understand that.
So,
yes.
What was considered almost, an old wives' tale or just woo-woo, as they say today, is now being proven scientifically. And
Yes.
It's very exciting.
Yes.
Very exciting.
And it's good what you're saying, because for young couples to start having problems early in their lives, it's a very injurious it's an injury really to the relationship.
It is.
And you find going outside the marriage, divorce,
Right.
when really you just build a relationship with each other. And my friends would always tease me because I proudly would tell them I never said no to my husband. I never got that angry to where, but what I did tell him when he would wake me up at night, because you wake me up, we're going to have this relationship, and then I have to keep a towel nearby because I got to clean stuff up. But let me tell you this. I said, now if you're going to wake me up like you're doing, you're going to need to become very creative. And he lessened the times he needed to wake me up. But I never denied, and I feel good about it. Now, do I worry about people hearing this? Because my friends, this is not a new conversation to my friends. I mean, because I am a strong believer. If you are as one, and I have friends that would tell me when I would brag about my husband, and I said, well, you didn't tell him I did this and I did that. I said, well, a compliment to your husband or to your wife is a compliment to you. And so we forget about, we just start listening to other folks trying to run your household, when really God has already put you together as one, and you just replenish. Because if you can't have intercourse, everything is not about intercourse. I know someone with a pump. My girlfriend told me, she said, my boyfriend can work that pump better than he was able to work. Before.
Right.
So, I mean, tell us some about the pump. What can you tell us about the pump?
There are, different ways that a male can have an erection. The pump is one.
And how is it installed on the body?
Well, there are different models. So
there is?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
And it's an external kind of connection, so to speak, that operates with suction. And some of them are battery operated, and some, most of them are battery operated or electric.
Well, who's getting a pump? What has gone on health-wise that resulted in your now having a pump
Well, a man,
installed?
all right, a man could be simply aging and, circulation. It could be that he's diabetic. It could be that he's had, prostate surgery. Different things can make it more, sometimes they don't always work. There are also injections that can be done directly into the penis with a very short needle.
Now, explain that.
Well, that's about as far as I can't.
So, but is it connected to the pump when they do it?
No, I'm sorry.
This is separate.
From the pump.
Okay.
There's also something that a company that produces sex toys. I hate to use that term.
Yeah.
Anyway, and it's called. The company is called Hot Octopus, and the pulse it's called, and it is actually a sleeve that can wrap around a flaccid penis, and then it vibrates and will actually does not bring on an erection unless the man is capable of that, but it can actually bring a male to orgasm with or without ejaculation, without erection. Now,
Oh, really?
that is, and it's, I think the model, the $99, I think, is what it is. And it's recommended. There's a woman named Joan Price, and check out her website, her blog. She's a sex,
Therapist?
well, not a therapist. She is, she's a person in her 70s who has written 5 or 6 books.
Okay.
I think she's a good person for the average person to read because it's real stuff. It's not medical, but I have read some of her articles where she does give good references because she's not just making this stuff up. But she has, on her site, she reviews sex toys. And she recommends, I guess this was a separate thing where she talked about this particular one from Hot Octopus. And so I found that very interesting and helpful because there are men, for instance, post-prostate surgery, sometimes the reviews that I read for men that were using that, a few of them said it was very pleasurable and they actually could almost reach an orgasm. One man did, but that it was so pleasurable because you don't just have to have an orgasm, you don't just have to have an erection or an ejaculation. I mean, forget that. That doesn't do anything as far as making you feel, connected. So I think that her website is worth checking into. Joan Price.
Well, let me ask you this. Is this Octopus, is it? Joan Price?
The Hot Octopus is a company. She's not her company. She just recommends the Pulse.
The Pulse.
That's sold by Hot Octopus. Oh, and what I was saying too, she only recommends things that are safe. You don't want to go and get a cheap toy or apparatus because it could have toxic chemicals in it. And you're putting that on a part of your body, particularly female, with maybe thinning vaginal lining, it's going to be absorbed into your body. So it's important that you get, and when I treat women with the pelvic floor dysfunction, they will use dilators in order to stretch the muscles and the tissues. So it's a therapeutic thing, but it can also be, a pleasurable thing. So anyway.
It's a question.
Yes.
Is there a certain age that the body shut down where you no longer can be stimulated and desiring sex? Is there a switch that shuts all that down?
No.
At a certain age?
Strictly individual. And your general health will speak strongly to that. To how long you're going to be able to operate physically. However, as long as your brain is working,
Well, that's what I think.
you can have. You can have desire. You can participate in desire, and if you are, in a position to deal in arousal with a partner or self-stimulating, then that's another level of it. But no, there is no age. There are men at 100 years old that are able to operate. There are not many of them. And a woman, if she takes care of herself,
She can do the same.
can go forever.
Yeah. Holy
Because
macadam. Oh, that's delicious.
As long as the vaginal tissues are able to lubricate or
Okay.
enough to have additional lubrication.
Now that's, some folks, the lubrication, you apply that inside or on top. How is that applied?
Well, it depends if you're doing it pre-intercourse or pre-penetration of some sort.
But aren't you told to use the estrogen just as a
Okay, now
replacement?
estrogen is a hormonal replacement.
Now, does that assist in any way?
Yes. Okay. When estrogen is prescribed and a woman is instructed to apply it by topical application down there, it is being absorbed into your bloodstream, and it's bypassing the liver, by the way, which is a good thing if you put it on your skin. But it is actually increasing the hormonal level of estrogen, or type of estrogen, that will help to thicken the lining of the vagina. And that lining weeps. That's what causes the lubrication naturally.
Okay.
Now, lubrication is another thing.
Okay.
So you might have enough lubrication that you don't need any assistance. You may have some, and you'll need to use something in addition. It can be applied internally by the woman, externally on the whatever it is that's being used, And I do want to say this about sex over 60. Don't think, if you are older, that you are immune to sexual transmitted diseases. HIV, gonorrhea, syphilis, you will get it if you don't use protection.
Is it because they're still mating up without other folks?
In nursing homes, STDs are very high.
Really?
Now, I'm not talking about people that are in acute care and on oxygen or chemo, but where people are...
residents.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And so be it. I mean, but...
So the same precaution as a younger person.
Absolutely.
You continue
have to use a condom, or you are putting yourself at great risk for disease.
Interesting. You know of several incidents where...
Oh, I can show you statistics.
Really?
Very high. Very high.
Really?
Yes.
Uh-huh.
That's one of the big things. Communication, and safe sex.
Yes.
Yes. You know what you want, what you need. You hope that the partner can share that with you also. But then when you proceed, you need to be very careful.
This is the thing.
And not just
Go on,
condoms,
Dr. John.
Because, herpes can be transmitted from the mouth as well.
Yes.
So if you're operating oral sex, and, so that I just have to throw that out, because it is very, very important that you do not think that you are immune. Now, if you've had one partner your whole life, and you're clean, and you can trust that the other person is the same, that one time that you're together, you can be sure, but after that, you don't know.
Yes.
And you don't believe.
But with herpes though, the mouth, but that it can sleep for 40 years.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so your husband may be long gone, or your spouse, and 40 years later, there you are.
Emerges.
But so you're saying go with caution, but it should never discourage you, because I like the stimulation of a relationship. Now, the thing of it is, though, I'm not going out there and just get with someone because I happen to have a desire that's not being fulfilled, which is what I did when I was stuck with that horniness 24/7. But I will say, at least I knew this person. They were I knew them well, so there was they were not a stranger.
Right.
However, and by the way, that didn't fix it. I'm trying to, and then later I went back to physical therapy. So eventually my family doctor, he said, Irene, he said, you do know how old you are, do you not? I said, yeah. I said, but as long as I'm getting a feeling, I would like it to be fulfilled.
Oh, yeah.
But so let me tell you this. This is the thing I tell people. When you're living, regardless of your age, you need to celebrate those numbers because you are yet still alive.
Right.
Why would I want to stop anything that I like?
Right.
Why would I want to stop anything that I like? Situations may stop it.
Right.
We cannot chart our own course. That may stop it.
Right.
But the desires, I think they're the things that really complement your life, replenish your life.
But remember, you are wired that way.
Yeah.
Someone else may not be. We're all individuals, and some people, I'm with you completely.
Yes.
But I wanted to ask you, if you don't mind,
Oh, please.
what did you go to physical therapy for?
Because they could not stop the 24/7, and
How
they
could the
were trying.
physical
They were
therapist stop
trying
that?
to see what was going on down there. That might have that toy device might have triggered something, and they sent me to St. Thomas. And then they gave me your card 3 years ago and that's how
So
it
at
is.
St. Thomas, they did an exam?
They did, and when they examined me, they're down there and they're penetrating me and all that kind of stuff, and then all it
And they
did
found
was
nothing.
made me bleed, and then I went to my family doctor,
Uh-oh.
so he said not to go back.
Okay.
But truthfully, when I start thinking about what it is in order to try to get this gratified, I wasn't going back to another toy anymore. I wasn't going to go out there on the street trying to find a perfect stranger.
Right.
And I was not going to not be the me that I am, because at the end of the day, it's how I respect myself. And so I just had to try to calm the situation down. I've met several people since, but I have not had anything to do with them because I don't like them as a people in the way they were presenting themselves to me. So hopefully one day I will find a mate. I don't try to force a mate. I don't try to be that person that I'm not. But I will always tell people there's nothing like making somebody happy. There's nothing like getting a relationship where you respect each other.
Right.
Where you don't mind listening to anything it is they're wanting to say. Let them say not what you want them to say, but say what is going on with yourself. I believe in that. To my core, I believe it, because I'm going to always say what I want to say.
And I think this is important, because what Irene, what some people may be hearing you say is that you're supposed to make your man happy no matter what.
Or your
But I don't
female,
hear that
vice
from
versa.
Irene, because Irene is outspoken. Irene I do believe you do set your boundaries, and that's critical, because I don't think in any relationship one person should give all.
Yes.
It needs to be mutual.
Right.
Yes. And so I think because you are the personality that you are, you can be so giving and still hold your own.
You have
that's
you
great.
have to hold your own, because then you're not giving them an opportunity to love you and to appreciate you if you do things with abandonment. So you have to have you do and say what you feel need to be said. But at the end of the day, you have to respect yourself and you have to respect your mate. Now me, on the other hand, I was always singing to him. I was always singing to my husband. And one of the things you respect Kitty-O with Brooke Bent, I would always sing, "Maybe I'm just wasting time. I can't get you off my mind." And my husband said, "Hold that note right there." So he took off and went into the kitchen, and he didn't return. But but you always treat each other, love your mate.
Yeah.
Whether you're married, whether you're gay, whether you're straight, it doesn't matter. But be good to each other. Let them, and do not have off limits. Do not tell them what they cannot talk about. My husband could talk about anything he wanted to talk about. I always understood that I could say whatever I wanted to talk about. One time, I even got him to go to an adult store, because I wanted to see what old people looked like. This is when I was younger. I wanted to see what old people looked like when they were still making love when they were doing their
Those old people.
But guess what? When I'm watching it, I said, first of all, they look like any person would look like in the stage of romance, And so, but I love honesty. I can get past anything long as you're honest. But I recommend that for every couple. And I thank you, Dr. John, for coming out. I'm not keeping track with my time. Cedric, can you give us the time? Are we looking good, or are we past?
6 minutes.
Oh, we have 6 minutes.
Very good.
Well, to my audience, I do not ask you to forgive me, because I have had a most delicious time, And Dr. John, I thank you for coming out and answering some of the questions that I had. And of course, the audience, I'm sure there were things that you educated them about that they did not know. And I appreciate your presence here today and the education that you're providing us. And I do hope that you will return at a future podcast. And let me end by telling you, April 7th, we will have Dr. Carla Montague Brown. She will discuss her own personal autoimmune situation that she's happened to be going to at the time, and she will educate you about that. It will always be every other Tuesday at 1 o'clock. I am booked through, thank God, through July. So in April 12th, I will have Terry Fricon. She lives both in Beverly Hills and in Hendersonville, and she was the former partner in business with Fred Astaire. We're going to talk about her career with Fred Astaire, and you're going to find that to be a very interesting conversation. I'm going to jump past some of my other guests. Also in May, I have a nephrologist who will speak on the kidney, because the nephrologist is a kidney specialist. And a lot of us will want to hear more about that for sure. But let me jump to tell you that May 24th, B.B. King's band will be performing, not open to the public, but they are performing on my podcast. And what I say is that B.B., my cousin who died, the band lives. And they're like they were when he was alive. They're very talented, and that is why you enjoyed BB, because in addition to his own talent, he had the band, which are magnificent. So I ask that you note that too, that they will be performing here May 24th. And again, Dr. John, I thank you very much. I had a wonderful time with you.
Well, thank you, Irene.
Yeah.
It has been delightful.
Thank you.
I really appreciate being here.
Thank you. And again, thank you for joining me for my very first podcast, A Conversation with Irene. And there was no editing, and I can just go with the flow, and that's okay. That's okay. So I don't need you at home nitpicking what I should have said and didn't say and could have said. I'm sure you can pick some more good out of this than any bad you might find. So don't even go there. And just come back to my next podcast, April 7th. And I look forward to your joining me then. Thank you.